Alrighty guys, welcome back to Listen to This, a podcast for music, about music, and everything in between.
For music, please listen to us, sponsor us even.
Please, we love you. Anyway, I'm Dani.
And I'm Alex.
And just a little disclaimer, so we are not experts, we are not anything of the sort when it comes to music, but we do appreciate music, and we do listen to vast quantities of it in a day.
And this is the platform that we can use to share our affinity and, at time, malice for some songs.
Oh, that sounded like scary, like malice.
There's only one song I hate that.
I know, we're gonna find that out soon, I hope. Like, eventually I'll coax that out of you. But today's lineup is concerts.
Concerts, which I admittedly am a comparative lightweight compared to Dani, who has been to, do you think you can say over 100 shows?
Oh, I wish. No, it's probably...
Just dozens.
Yeah, I want to say dozens, which is surprising because my parents tried very hard to keep me from going to concerts until I was 18, believe it or not.
Really? Why?
Because a lot of the festivals I wanted to go to, like, I think my first concert ever was actually Spring Fever Tour, and I think that was in 2012. It had You Me at 6, Mayday Parade, Pierce the Veil, and All Time Low. It was in Milwaukee. It was at the rave. And my friend was going to go, but then she dropped out and couldn't go. And my dad was like, if it's in Milwaukee, you are not going. And so I wrote an essay, I'm not even kidding, about like all the reasons I should go and like who is driving, the whole shebang. And he goes, okay, you can go if I meet the driver and like talk through where you guys are like gonna park, stuff like that. And so he met my friend and like terrified the shit out of my friend.
Oh boy.
And he's like, where are you gonna park? Like, have you been there before? Do you know how to get to Milwaukee? What way do you take? He, like, every detail of the trip. And my friend's like, yeah, I'm driving. We're going to park in the parking lot. We're going to... Everything my dad wanted to hear, Dad, click off. We didn't do that. Like, our older friend ended up driving us. We all piled into these two cars. We parked by McDonald's on that road and walked, like, 2 blocks.
To say that was a few blocks away from the rave.
And we walked to the rave. We were good.
And you were how old, 16?
Yes. I must have been like almost 16. I want to say I was like 15 turning 16 that year.
Edgy kid right here.
I know. That was a fun concert though. And that...
Was it your first one?
Mm-hmm.
Like your very first, like, of all time?
Okay, technically my very first was Hillary Duff.
Hell yeah.
With my
Let's
mom.
hear that story. Hell yeah. Let's hear that story.
I don't remember much of it. I think it was her Most Wanted tour, if I remember correctly. So...
You still remember Hillary Duff's tour names?
Yes.
Hillary, for the love of God, I want you to know you do still have fans out there, and now she has a podcast.
Ta-da! Look at me go. Yeah, no, that was
That's cool.
Technically my first concert. But my first concert without any parental supervision was the Spring Fever Tour.
You said it was a good show?
Oh, I loved it.
I mean,
Especially...
The lineup sounded good.
Yeah,
So.
You Me at 6 was always fun. I would just getting into them. They're like a UK like punk band. They were like super fun to watch. Mayday Parade actually didn't do it for me that time. Because
really?
I knew them for some of their sad songs, but like Black Cat, When I Get Home You're So Dead, like stuff of that nature. I knew them to be a little more like uppity. Yeah, so they played a lot more of their slower stuff. It must have been from their new album at the time that I did not get a chance to listen to because I was packing it full with All Time Low, Pierce, and You Me at 6.
Yeah.
So Mayday kind of got the short end of that stick. Pierce the Veil was super fun to watch, but yeah, no, it was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Like the whole set was super good. The whole like theatrics to it was so much fun. Like everybody was moving. That's when I was like, I want to go to more. Like that's when the addiction to concerts started. Yeah, I was like, let's go. And I think the next year, 2013, is when I went to my first Warped Tour.
Oh,
and that's where it
I'm so jealous.
started.
I gotta go to those. The only time I had like the actual time to go to Warped was the very last year of the Warped Tour, and instead I left the country. So
I
missed that. I missed
weird.
that.
I went with my 2 good best girlfriends from high school. And so we got up like super early in the morning, drove to Milwaukee, so we were like the first people in line. And I had never been to like Summerfest. I hadn't really been to any big festivals, so this was like the big carnival festival to me almost.
Okay.
Because the only thing I could compare it to is like the fairs that I used to have back home. So just with the amount of people and the amount of things going on, and there's booths for all these bands, and there's like people going, like, there's all this food, there's all this merch, all these people, like, all of a sudden you're seeing like a band member just walking through the crowd, and you're just like so starstruck, and you're like, oh my god, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best part about Warped, I think, is just seeing everybody kind of just walking around. Like, there's just so much to see, and you're just like, oh.
Like, even the bands that are there as part of the tour are there to appreciate the other bands'
Yeah,
music
exactly.
and be fans. Yeah.
Like, it's the coolest part about it, because, like, you would be watching, like, a band, and all of a sudden you see, like, all these other band members on the side just sitting there cheering them on or something. And so it's always so cool to kind of see just not only how many bands are coming out for this tour, but how many bands are coming out for other bandmates, too, and other band members and other groups. So it was a really cool support to see.
And that's the kind of support that you see in, like, local music scenes. Like, not just, like, for us local here, but in general, like, small bands will support other small bands at their shows, and then it's always reciprocated and stuff.
And
and then what's nice is that if one of them does get the opportunity to make it big, they will have their friends that they performed with in the past be, like, their opening band and stuff
exactly.
like that, which I like. I like a community that can be bred from that kind of scene. I like that a lot.
I also love the fact that I have seen both 303 at Warped Tour twice. They are the funniest band to see live.
That's gotta be a party.
It is. It's literally, they're just having a ball. They don't even have to be singing at this point. And everybody in the crowd is singing, dancing, like, people are crowd surfing, and you're just like, what in the hell is going on here?
Is 303 still together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're old, but they're jumping around still. Like, the last time I saw the short guy, not the tall skinny one, but the shorter one, he had like this full-on beard.
Really?
And I was very uncomfortable for some reason, because I think the last music video I ever saw of them, they were like late 20s, so they just looked really young, and I'm like, oh man.
I think the last music video I saw for them was, I don't know what came first, Starstruck or blah blah blah, but regardless, it was
a time
almost
ago.
a decade ago, yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And then I saw Kesha, I think just last year. So for some reason to me, seeing both of those people live was just kind of a weird, like, party bucket list almost, I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Party bucket list. I have to make one of those.
It was just, I don't know, because, like, I've always kind of wanted to see Kesha live. Like, seeing 303 was nice, but it was accidental. And I never was going to go out of my way to see them or Kesha play. But then she came to Panther Fest and played at
It was Panther Fest,
yeah.
okay.
And so I went there sicker than a dog, too. I was so sick. I lost my voice that week. Like, I could not talk. I thought I had the flu.
But damn it, you were gonna hear TikTok live.
You damn straight. No, I went there for Take It Off. Someone whipped their pants. This is a school event, and someone, like, whipped their pants off immediately. It was the funniest thing.
I have had so many people describe to me what that concert was like that at this point I'm just picturing a war zone of sleaze.
And I went with Mal and then her roommates and then like some other people. And
they might have been there. I don't know.
I don't quite remember how they knew anybody in the group, but they were there. But I just remember dying and then also like sitting down and like coughing till thought I was going to pass out, and all of a sudden she would play like a song I knew, and I'd immediately jump up and start singing and like dancing, and I almost fell off the like little chair I was on. It was a mess, but it was so much fun.
That's cool though. Like that's a good concert then, and even when you're dying, you want to get up and dance to the music. That's
I think
good.
right after that, Mal has a picture of me like passed out on the lawn. Like we were waiting for an Uber, and I'm like, I just need to sit down, and like she's like, what? And I just laid down and like fell asleep for like 5 minutes.
Oh boy, your body probably hated you the next day.
Oh yeah, I couldn't. I got to work and they were like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was just like, not gonna speak today. Like I had to like sign at them because I just could not speak.
Oh boy,
it was bad. It was a bad week.
So I'm going to shift to a very wholesome experience of my first concert.
Wholesome.
Well, so
Did you see the Wiggles?
No, as much of a rager as that would be, no, I did not go to see the Wiggles. But if anyone ever wants to start jamming to some fruit salad, hit me up.
Oh my God.
No, so I didn't really go to. I genuinely think, because I cannot think of any other time. I don't think my first concert was until I was 18. Because I cannot think of going and seeing a live music show beyond, okay, yeah, there's the whole high school band concert, and yeah, I go and see maybe like local performances or something like that. Like I had been to the symphony before, but the first like
Never been to
music.
the symphony.
You're so uncultured.
I know.
But the first real music act I went and saw, I think when I was 18. It was with a girl I was seeing at the time, and she was into I don't know if they're exclusively Christian music, but they're definitely Christian founded. And I saw Green River Ordinance, and they were fine. It wasn't a bad concert. It wasn't. I think nowadays I would probably be able to appreciate their music more than I could at that time. But I was still like, this is a fun time, and I'm here with friends, and I'm at a venue that I know I like because it was in a nearby town. And then what was cool is the girls all wanted to take pictures with the band members after the show because it was a very small, not very, but a comparatively small show thing.
Yeah.
I do have a soft spot for the band because I'm a relatively taller guy. And when I was just taking pictures for the girls, like with the members, the lead singer looks at me, and he was probably 6'3", and he looks at me and says, "Hey, tall guy, can I have a picture with you?" And the fact that a performer who just did a whole show came to me and said, "Can I have a picture with you?" I was just like, this is really cool, actually. I like this guy a lot. Green River Ordinance, you're all right in my book. I hope you guys are still doing well. But that was my first time going to a show, and even though it was not my thing, and it was very laid back. Mm-hmm. It also kind of got me a bug, because that was the first year I went to Summerfest then. And I saw, come to think of it, my first shows weren't great for me. I saw Arctic Monkeys.
Ooh, I've always wanted to see them, but I'm afraid it's going to ruin it for me for some reason.
So this concert is going to be a very storied time here, so buckle up.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
So I was working at a McDonald's. I made a friend there, a coworker. I made a lot of friends there. But this guy and I were talking music for a bit. And he said, "Hey, Summerfest is going on, and Arctic Monkeys is playing tomorrow or in 2 days or something. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really know Arctic Monkeys." I think I'm pretty sure I said, "Who are they?" Like, I had never heard of them at this point. And this is in the year 2014 or 2015 or whatever, something like that. Whatever year their album with like the sound waves on it came out. He played a few other their big singles. I'm like, I don't know any of these, but I wanted to go to a concert. I wanted to hang out with him because he was my buddy from work. And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go. And they were a big draw. The arena was packed. Like every single seat was taken in that whole a whole half circle setup they had. Yeah. And there was a crowd going back, and we were just part of the crowd listening. And I listened to him, and I'm like, this is music. I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this is objectively good, but it's just not for me. In order to thank me for paying for parking, my friend had actually bought me with the new album. And he's like, "Hey, here you go. This is for you." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, thank you." And I'm like, I listened to the album, and I'm like, I just cannot get into this. It is not for me. However, in the years to come, and still to 2019, the most recent year happened, I would go on to meet people in my life who were also at that show. That show is like the backstory origin for what would become a bunch of my friends. People who I wouldn't meet for 7 years, they were at that show somewhere in the crowd.
Isn't that just wacky, though?
The Arctic Monkeys concert at Summerfest is so important to me, and I don't give two shits about Arctic Monkeys.
This is funny, because Arctic Monkeys was really big, especially when I was, like, a sophomore in high school. So at that time, I was still kind of, like, going into, like, Pierce the Veil sort of stuff, Mayday Parade, Black Veil Brides, early Bring Me the Horizon, Don't Give Me That Look.
I swear I didn't give her a look.
Like Falling in Reverse, stuff like that. So they weren't really my cup of tea at the time. But then, a little after 2015, freshman in college, I'm sitting in my dorm watching Peaky Blinders. Great show, by the way, but that's not the point of the story. The point is there's an episode or a scene on the last episode of the second season. And not to give too much away, in the background, the instrumental part of Do I Want to Know is playing, and he bursts through the doors, and that's where, like, it really kicks in, and, like, the bass drums are going and shit like that, and he's talking about, like,
badass.
all he wants to do, and I was just like, I don't know what this song is, but I want to know. And so that's when I got into Arctic Monkeys, was basically because of Peaky Blinders. And that's so many years later after, like, everybody kind of knew who they were.
A story like that, I love that kind of thing. Like, I didn't care about AFI until Prelude 1221 played an episode of Smallville kind of thing, and it was an incredible scene. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And that's a good reason to at least maybe not get into a band, but appreciate what the band is. And I actually now, I don't know why, but something in your story helped fill in more of my memory in regards to my concert. There was nothing that relevant to what I'm about to say, but something about a word you said must have triggered it in my head. I remembered that my friend wasn't talking about inherently going and seeing Arctic Monkeys. We wanted to go see Jimmy Eat World, who was in like 3 days, and he was like, "Hey, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the timeline is that, hey, Arctic Monkeys is also playing in 2 days, so do you want to go see them, then go to Jimmy Eat World the next day?" And I'm like, yeah, I wanted to go see Jimmy Eat World. So I saw Jimmy, and they were another headliner show. Admittedly, I only knew their album Bleed American. I only really knew that one. I knew the middle, and Sweetness is on them. I love the song Sweetness. That's just a happy party rock song.
I got into Jimmy Eat World because of their music video for My Best Theory.
Really?
And then I kind of worked my way around into Bleed American and that whole album because my roommate has that album on vinyl. And that's
cool.
how I found it. So that I liked one song, and so you have to listen to the whole. What was that? You have to listen to the whole vinyl to get to the song you like, because you can't just be like, "Oh, I bet it's here," and drop it down. So like, yeah. So I got really used to listening to the album, and then I was like, "Oh, I really do like these guys. It's not just a one-hit wonder song for me. I'm like, I like this band."
The show itself they were okay. They came, they played music, they left, they did an encore. It was good, and the encore was the middle. Because, like, when the whole show went by, like, they haven't played the middle yet. They played Sweetness, which I was happy for, but, like, they haven't played the middle yet. And that's the Jimmy Eat World song people know. So when they came out, I knew it was going to happen. 2 stories from that concert, though. One, they played their song Coffee and Cigarettes, which I was like, I like this song. I'm getting into this. And then I went and heard the album version, and I was like, I actually liked it live better. Mm-hmm. Just because, for the chorus, the lead singer was hitting the chorus. The real notable thing to come from that day, though, is the opener for Jimmy Eat World was a band called Super Happy Fun Club. And I like that band a lot. Discovered them after the show, bought what they had at the time, both their albums right away. And I do genuinely like them. And it's a topic for another day, but they're a band that's 6 members, and all of them sing.
Really?
Yeah, that like their iconic thing is in all their songs there will be at least one moment, usually the chorus, but at least one moment where all of them are singing. Two guitarists, a bassist, the drummer, a lead singer, and a keyboardist.
Oh, that would kind of be cool too.
And singing them live, they were getting into it too, seeing them all lined up and all of them in front of the mics and the drummer leaning over to sing as well. It was
so like going off of like songs that we've heard but prefer live. So I think. This was at Sonic Boom. I don't know. I can't remember what year. I think it was the first year JJO put on Sonic Boom down in Janesville at like this old airport that got closed down. And so
that'd be a cool venue.
It was a really cool venue because they had like 2 big stages set up on like either side of this like middle barricade, and then from one side of the stage it'd be booths, and then on the other side was more booths. So it kind of like circled you in a little bit. But it was massive. It was like in a big field.
That sounds like a pretty decent setup, actually.
Yeah, it was really cool. And like, that year that I went, they had like, who did they? They had Starset, who I'm a huge fan of. They're a super theatrical band.
Oh no, I love Starset.
So especially when My Demons came on, like. This was like super early in the morning, so I'm just going off. Like, it was so much fun for that one.
A buddy just showed me Starset like maybe 3 months ago, and he kept describing them as the way they describe themselves as cinematic rock.
Yeah,
I can get behind this.
Especially talking to you about like concept albums, like their whole first album. If you listen to it from the first song to the very last song, each like ending and beginning of song are like. Weird space facts. So it's this old like 1920s like sounding radio guy talking about like the orbit of these satellites going around the planet, and like they really get into their aesthetic, and I kind of appreciate that. And especially too when they were playing, they were wearing like space outfits for a while. Like it was super cool. Yeah, to the point. I saw A Day to Remember. I think it was the first time I ever seen them live. Only knew a few of their songs, like All I Want, All Signs Point to Lauderdale.
It
like,
means a lot to you, I assume?
Yeah, I never heard that song yet.
No, really?
Surprisingly,
okay.
I did, but it was the one I heard live. So he's like, all right, everybody, like, we usually don't play slow songs, but we're going to play this one for you. If you know it, sing it. And so the whole crowd lit up. Like, they all pulled out their phones. They had lighters and flashlights, like, as far as the eye can see. And this whole crowd full of, like, young kids and kind of, like, older people were all singing this song. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on right now. But it was such a cool song to see live that I was like, oh, man, I could really get into this. Like... And
that sounds incredible.
It was so cool to see them play it live. And at the time, too, so my friend who I went with, it was her and her boyfriend. She was crowd surfing the song before. So her boyfriend and I were just like, where the fuck is she?
Oh, she was gone?
Yeah, she was gone. She still hadn't made her way back to us. So we're trying to, like, kind of find her and kind of, like, enjoy the song. So we're, like, half paying attention, but he got to the part where, like, the music starts picking up, so, like...
You know you can't give me what I need.
Yeah. So before then, the whole stage was dark, and he's just kind of sitting, like, in the middle of the stage on the stool. And you don't see the background, you just see him. And then that kicks on, and the whole stage lights up, and the whole, like... field lights up.
That's awesome.
And it was the coolest thing. Like, I was, like, so spellbound by it, but I was like, I love this song. I love this band. Like...
that was the moment for you?
It was the complete moment. And it was a complete turnaround, too, because the set before was Bring Me the Horizon. And I had seen them already at Warped Tour in 2013. Could not wait to see them again. Got really close this time to the barricades. I was super excited. I got crushed. It was so bad. I could not breathe. I started panicking.
Like, you physically got crushed.
Yeah, I was
pushed
being...
up against... Oh, boy.
Yeah, I was being pushed between the two... There was, like, 2 rows of people before the barricade. So I was being pushed into the people, and I could not get out. And so this guy behind me realized that I was, like, stuck. And he goes, do you want to get out? And I was like, please, for the love of God.
I would love to breathe right now.
Yeah, so he and this other guy, like, were trying to pick me up, but someone had a grip of my backpack, so I couldn't get up. And so I was, like, super freaked out. And these 2 guys who were just complete godsends to me at that time, like, literally lifted my skinny ass out of this crowd and, like, threw me over the barricade to the security dude. And I was like, thank God, I'm over it. Like, I want to go home. And so it was a complete turnaround from that.
So that happened during the Bring Me the Horizon set. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy, okay.
And so they're like, oh, let's go see A Day to Remember. And I'm like, I don't want to be in a crowd. I don't want to do that again. So we kind of stayed more toward the back. Because I'm like, I'm not going into this crowd. And it was a complete 180. It saved the whole day for me.
That's cool.
It was a really cool time.
Did they actually have a female vocalist for the female part of that?
It was just the guy, yeah. Because I didn't realize there was a female part to it until I heard the album version, and I was like, oh, I get it.
Despite how often we talk music to each other, the only show that we've actually been to together was A Day to Remember.
Yeah.
I assume it'd be years after that story, because it was only 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
This summer it'll have been 3 years ago.
It was like 3 or 4 years. Like, no, because I must have been... Because it was, this is how I measure it. So I know that was my senior year that I had seen them, because it was right after that I dislocated my knee. So that's how I measure time. So,
when was the last time I did a serious bodily injury to myself?
Pretty much. So it must have been, what, 3 or 4 years from when I first saw them is when I saw them with you.
Okay. We had gone, because they had come to Summerfest, and we had planned on seeing them, like, we had agreed we were going to go see them, like, 4 months in advance, like, once the lineup was released, and then another coworker of ours said he was going and he'd be there. So, like, okay, cool, yeah, hey, let's do it. So we went to the show together, ran into a bunch of, a fair amount of people. You ran into people you knew, we ran into another coworker of ours, I ran into someone I knew, then we ran into the initial coworker we were going to meet up with. And we hadn't really walked around and seen many other shows, but we kind of found seats because we knew A Day to Remember would be packed. So we found seats and just kind of enjoyed ourselves at that stage. The first band that was up, like, you know, the 4 o'clock show, because usually for Summerfest there's 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then 10 o'clock is when the headliner comes out. 4 o'clock band was one that I didn't know. I don't think you knew
Knucklepuck,
either.
I think.
They were 7 o'clock.
Oh.
The one before them, I didn't know them at all, and I don't think you did either. I think we were discussing like, they're all right, but they're just kind of a generic rock band. Then Knucklepuck came out, a band that I think you had seen at Warped, right?
I'd heard of them at Warped, I think, or I'd heard of them because they did a cover of like a pop song.
They were playing live, and they were really good. I was actually tempted to buy their album that day. I ended up buying it later, anyways. But they did a good job. I just remember them. It's a rock show, so they want to mosh or at least circle pit or something like that. And the way that the stage was set up is like the actual seats, the benches were bolted into the ground. It wasn't like a makeshift stage that they had put together. This stage was made for a concert show, so they were there to always have seating kind of thing. And they were like, "Come on, guys, let's see a pit for them, play a few songs." Now, and someone told them they can't make a pit right now, which the lead singer interpreted as they aren't allowed to make a pit right now. So he said, "They're saying you can't make a pit, but we don't give a fuck. Let's do it anyways." And we're in the crowd going, "We physically can't do a pit because we would all trip all the time." And this is...
Well, it's funny you say that, too, because, like, later on when A Day to Remember played, because the crowd had gotten so big by the time A Day to Remember started, that, like, I'm pretty sure we were louder than the Tom Petty, like, stage that was going on, because
easily
we were just so big and so rowdy that by the time that A Day to Remember, I think, was halfway through their set, like, all of a sudden we turned around and there were these 2 giant circle pits, like, in the middle of this walkway. And it was the funniest thing.
The
all
pits were adamant about forming.
Yeah, like, it was so funny, too, because all these people are, like, especially, you can tell, like, who have no idea what's going on, are, like, staring at the, like, people like they're insane. And the security people didn't know what to do, so they just kind of were, like, watching and just trying to make sure no one swung too hard or something. It was the funniest thing to watch.
It was pretty great. That concert is probably the 3rd best concert I've been to. Because A Day to Remember is a band that has great stage presence.
Oh, yeah.
Jeremy is there, and he is full of life. He's going to talk to that crowd. He's going to have a great time. And they're a band, and this is something very dorky I always like. They're a band that brings props. They're going to throw things into the crowd and stuff. And we had beach balls and inflatable pizzas.
Mm-hmm. When I saw them at Sonic, Jeremy pretty much crawled into this giant hamster ball. And he's like, he told everybody, he's like, you got to get real close for this to work. So everybody, like, don't crush anybody, but come up to the stage. And so everybody's like, fill up the holes. And so everybody did. And then he just jumped over the, like, stage gap and just started running like a hamster on the crowd. And it was
that's cool.
It was so funny to watch because they're between the beach balls and, like, people are throwing toilet paper and shit like that. You have this dude in a hamster ball.
That's so cool. A guy I know, he's seen him live a billion times, and he actually, a very fond, proud moment for him was he had a Pikachu hat on one time, and Jeremy actually called him out in the crowd. So it was like in between songs. He was like, so I glanced out there and someone's wearing a Pikachu hat, and that kind of made my night or whatever, something like that. And I was like, that's cool, like that. He's literally calling out individuals in the audience and having a good time just with everyone. Great stage presence. They're always running around. At one point, I think it was for when they played We Got This, but I might be mistaken. Jeremy just laid on the ground and the guitarists were jumping over him, but he was still singing from the ground.
I think that's what song that was, too. My favorite, too, always will be All I Want.
All I Want was, in my opinion, kind of their
what was the
comeback song.
Yeah, what was the one where he's like, everybody get on someone's shoulders? Does that Have Faith?
That was Have Faith in Me. And I was about to segue to that story because I feel so bad because Jeremy said, ladies, if there's a guy there, get up on his shoulders, and you turned to me, and we are not romantically linked at all. But I looked at you, and you kind of gave me the whole, haha, that'd be silly, and I was like, you want to go on? And you're like, okay, sure.
That was the hardest thing to do, was get on your shoulders.
Oh, so again, I'm kind of tall, so it would have been. It was awkward at the time to get her to stand on the bench and for me to crouch down low enough. And then I don't know if I ever properly explained to you what happened, but I was never standing at full height. Not because I couldn't handle her on my shoulders. Dani's a grain of rice. I can easily lift her up, but because my foot was wedged awkwardly. So like I said, the benches were nailed down or screwed down to the ground, and like if this is the post. When I was lifting you up, I had like my feet separated. Then as I stood up, my one foot wouldn't come back over, and I didn't want to like bounce and shimmy and stuff because I was worried about you falling off. So I was just awkwardly half crouched down, waiting for the song to end, thinking, God, this is probably ruining for her right now because she went.
Dude, it was so funny too because like even when you weren't at your full height because I'm sort of tall for being a girl. Like, I was still taller than some people that were standing on benches, dude. Like, it was the funniest shit.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad to hear that, though, because I was worried I was ruining it for you, and I'm like, I can't fix this right now.
Nah, I had a great time. Like, I didn't want to be too high, too, because also I feel like that's really, like, shitty to be like, hi, guys, I'm still gonna block your view.
Me standing at any show, yeah, I feel that.
And especially, like, seeing A Day to Remember because they are such a fun
That's
band to
so
see
good.
live that you want to scream along to it. And everybody else around you is doing it. So it's, like, a really cool, like, collective, like, thing. I don't know. They're just out always. Whenever they're around, I'll go see them. I don't care how old I am.
And then, like, they're also a band who really wants to help, like, with their whole self-help fest, their whole music festival dedicated to, like, the proceeds go to, like, helping, like, suicide prevention and stuff like that. I get behind them a lot. And Third Eye Blind is another band that has amazing stage presence. Admittedly, they didn't have a full show because their big time to shine was mid to late 90s and even some early 2000s. But I could just tell it wasn't as it's despite being a headliner, it wasn't a huge show. But they had great stage presence. The lead singer was walking around and talking to people. He was sharing stories because apparently he had lived in Milwaukee until he was like 3 or 4 and he had some memory about it and stuff. And at the time, that was my favorite concert. They were fun. They were a good time. Then we saw A Day to Remember, and they topped it. And then this band topped it again the next time. I just remember being kind of angry because there were some kids, probably our age, me and my buddy's age at the time, standing in front of us who were just standing there. The kind of kids who were too cool to dance. Like, we're here listening. We're at a concert. We're at Summerfest. Yeah, this band's all right? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, kind of lame though. Kind of old for old people. And I just remember thinking, why are you here right now? Are you even enjoying your music, or are you trying to create an image kind of thing? Like it's I think it's really stupid to be a poser about not liking something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like especially now too, like that whole kind of mentality caught on, especially with the internet. So everybody's quick to tell you exactly what they hate. Like, they're not open to discussion for it. They're like, I hate it, and this is it. And it's just like, that's boring, though. Like, I'd rather listen about, I might not like this group you do, but why do you like them? Was there a memory to it? Is there, like, a story like our concerts to it? Like, what about them do you like? Like, that's far more interesting than being like, oh, yeah, I hate it. Because the first thing anybody who is listening is going to be like, all right, and? Like, no one cares, dude. Like, get over it.
No one cares. People are 9 times out of 10 way more interested in hearing an excited passion story over an angry passion story.
Oh man, segueing into something completely different before you go into your whole fangirling phase.
Oh, I have more stories before this one even. So.
Perfect. The last episode I talked about Palais.
Palais Royale.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever saw them was at Warped Tour. I think it was the very last Warped Tour. And then I got my friend into it. Actually, I got my friend and my roommate into it. So much so that, like, I played it with them separately. And so I went and picked them all up. And I put on that song, and instantly they're all like, I know this song. You know this song? Oh my god, I know this song. You know this song.
You'll be fine?
Yeah. It was so funny because they were freaking out about both knowing it. And I was like, yes, it's working. So I was able to convince one of them to go see them live at the rave with me. And so this was, like, at the rave bar, like, the small little stage area. Bones UK came on. They are my favorite, like, up-and-coming band. Like, I'd never heard of them before. They're punk grunge, like, full-on female grunge.
Oh, rad.
Yeah,
okay.
The singer, because she would always tell stories about how they went to a concert or they were in a concert in the UK. And one of the other bands who were playing, someone came over to them and was like, oh, like, you guys play really good for girls. And they're like, excuse me, what?
Oh, that's not cool.
And he goes, oh, well, don't you know it's, guys can play guitar better because our hands are bigger, so we can, like, play more chords or something like that. And their guitarist is a badass. And so she's like, this is what we think to that. And she just did this, like, insane riff. As if, like, the female singer's like, here we go, guys, and just went into
Prepare yourselves.
Yeah, went into like this whole like angry like fuck you song. And then right after that, they did Pretty Face. And if that sounds familiar, which it might not for you, but once I tell the story, it might.
Yeah.
Remember, it was that spy movie, Anna, had Cillian Murphy in it.
I know the movie.
Yeah. The trailer that we saw for it, What a Waste of a Pretty Face, that was them. I know your face.
Okay. No, I don't remember it, but okay, that's cool. That's the music's
so
being
cool
put
to
out
hear that
in the
again.
world.
Because I was like, how do I know that? And I kept looking at Mallory and like, we know this. I just don't know how. And then eventually it like clicked and I was like, oh God.
You saw it live.
Yeah, we saw this. This is that song that we like. So they're such a cool band to see live because they really kind of bring back like the 90s grunge, that like the era that I missed. So they kind of give you a little bit of a taste to it. And then of course Palais Royale came on and they got a very European, like they're from Canada, but grew up in the Las Vegas area.
The last band you were talking about, that was Bones UK, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah.
But then Palais Royale, yeah.
And then Palais Royale came on and kind of kept that feeling going and stuff. And oh man, we were literally dancing for that whole set. And then they were like, all right, thanks guys, and like walked off. And I just remember sitting here going like, what just happened?
No, wait,
like,
hold on, wait, please.
There was so much plaid and fishnet and like black and scrunchies and stuff. And I was like, I don't know what just happened right now. Like we like walked out and like,
I enjoyed it.
What era are we in?
What year is it?
What year is it? It was amazing. Like they're so high energy. Like that whole setup was so high energy. It was so much fun to go see.
Well, was Palais Royale involved in the whole fishnet plaid thing, or was that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. They were
I
the
think meant that was just Bones UK.
No, that was that whole concert. It was like very like early Evanescence, like 90s grunge to like Euro grunge. It was a fun time. And I was joking with Mallory too, because like I can't remember, I was probably wearing black per usual, but she was wearing like a little bit of nicer clothes and stuff, and she just goes, there's so much fishnet. And I was like, yeah.
I remember her
this is like early Hot Topic scene style.
She told me about that concert months later, and she was like, I was so underdressed. I stood out so much in that crowd.
It was great.
The idea of a high energy and kind of this isn't inherently grunge, and nor is this a first person retelling of a story, but the band The Offspring. I guess you could argue very early Offspring would be kind of grunge, or at least garage punk with like Smash and stuff. But that's not really relevant right now. My brother I believe he was at the concert, or maybe his friends were telling him this story. So this might be a second-hand story. This might be a third-hand story. I honestly don't remember. But going back to Summerfest, because I'm a one-trick pony, a high-energy rock show like that, though. The Offspring was a headliner. They were a 10 p.m. show, but they weren't the headliner of the day. They weren't on the big stage. They weren't on the paid stage. They were a 10 o'clock show by one of the side stages. But the crowd that they drew was bigger than the big name, who I don't even remember who it was at this point because I wasn't there. But the crowd was so big and the music was getting so intense that there were actually reports that the police were getting of people feeling the show's vibrations from the music on the highway like 10 minutes down. Like it was such a powerful show for that band and stuff.
God.
Like that's kind of high energy. I would love to be. That's the kind of crowd I'd love to be a part of. To say I shared that moment with hundreds of people.
Honestly, too, can you imagine the poor like cars going above and being like, why is my car breaking?
Or like, why is the bridge breaking?
Oh man, yeah. I was gonna say too. Okay, so I've seen this band like a few times now. I'm gonna say like 3 or 4 times. But I've shown you In This Moment, right?
Yeah.
They are a band that I highly recommend anyone to see, even if they don't necessarily like rock music, because they are so theatrical that you just can't
help. On stage?
Yeah. Like, they'll recreate all of their music videos.
Oh, yeah?
On stage. So, like, there's one, Horror is really cool to see live. No, but that song, because, like, the whole song is just being like, so what if they call you a slut kind of thing? Like,
okay, who cares what they think?
Yeah. burlesque sort of show.
Okay.
So Chris Motionless from Motionless in White is in it. He like walks in. He's got like these like masks on. There's like bunny masks all over, kind of similar to the Playboy style.
Okay.
And all of a sudden the stage opens up, and it's Maria Brink, the lead singer, and these two girls that are kind of dressed like mannequins, and they start like kind of creepy dancing. And then it cuts over to Maria kind of like in the like schoolgirl sort of outfit, but she has a dunce cap on, and it has a horror written on it in like red lettering. So whenever that song comes on, she brings out this yardstick and this like dunce cap, and she hands them out to like different girls in the crowd to like wear. And it's a super cool moment because like she like goes into like the meaning of the song and like why it's important and like why girls should be allowed at shows like this and why it shouldn't be so weird and why like we gotta stop judging sexuality and shit like that. Cause she's like, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares what they say? Cause it's not their issue.
That's a really cool message to send. I get behind that. And then also like making it a fun way to send out that message.
Yeah, Maria Brink has that whole choreography down, and she's like very. Even in her her motion, she has very big gestures. She's very like front and center. She kind of does the whole pin-up style sort of thing.
Okay.
So she's super fun to watch. And the whole they've been with Motionless in White. They toured with them when they went to the rave, because that was when Chris Motionless was in the horror music video. So it was really cool to see both of them, because they're both kind of like the weird sort of, I don't want to say like gothic, but kind of like, yeah, that gothic sort of feel to their stage presence.
I guess I don't know enough about in this moment, but in Motionless in White, I guess you could call that gothic, or just goth.
Yeah, we're just straight up emo goth.
Okay, yeah, but it sounds like those two would mix well together then.
Oh yeah, that was a really fun show.
How many shows at the rave have you been to? Could you say dozens?
I would at least say at least a dozen.
At least a dozen, okay.
Because I always go there for something or other.
I have only ever been there once, and it was my most recent concert. Because my favorite band was coming to town. They weren't even the headliner. The headliner for this show was actually a Cage the Elephant. They were the big name to come in.
Oh, really?
But the second opener for them was my favorite band, Angels and Airwaves. That's
not even like your favorite. That's like your spirit animal.
I fucking love Angels and Airwaves. Oh my god. Big fan of Blink. Love the Boxcar Racer album. His one solo album where he just kind of, it's called Demos, Odds, and Ends, where he's kind of releases like, half put together things. Love that album. Obviously, Angels and Airwaves. I've loved every second of it. The animated stuff he's done through Ava and through his production company. The fact that he made the soundtrack for Love, and then Love became its own album kind of thing. So great. And the fact that I was able to see him live when this was the year that they finally came back, or at the time 2019 was, because they had kind of gone into hiatus. They have not released an LP since 2014.
Oh wow!
But this year they're supposed to release a new one, and I am excited. And they hadn't released an EP since 2017, and that was just to help support a book that was part of Tom's bigger production company kind of thing. So then, the day after my birthday last year, they drop a new single, and it was an incredible song, an amazing song for a comeback thing. And then they released another one. Then they released tour dates, and I was so excited to go and see one of their shows back in August. The song was released the day after my birthday. Then that Friday was when tickets were going to go live for their first tour in like 7 years or something like that. And there was going to be a show in Chicago, and I'm like, I'm going to that show. This is going to be something I have to get to. The tickets went live at noon. I, unfortunately, did not get to my computer until 12:05. By 12:07, the show was sold out. And the next closest show was St. Louis on a Sunday night. So I couldn't go, and I was so bummed. I'm like, why did I wait till 12:05? I should have been there right at noon. So then when this show was announced, and the fact that it was a Cage the Elephant show at the rave, and Angels and Airwaves were just also going to happen to be there, I'm like, I can make it to this one. This is going to be a big public venue. I can go to this one. And Cage the Elephant... I only know the two songs by him. I know Ain't No Rest for the Wicked and the cigarette one, Cigarette Monday Morning.
The cigarette one.
Their other really big song, the other big mainstream song. They were good. That lead singer did not stop once. He was dancing the entire time, walking around, and he was doing a thing where he'd take off his shirt as part of like the theme or whatever, and they had a big light show production. He'd put on costumes and masks and stuff, and he never stopped moving that entire show, except for when he was doing dance moves that was striking poses, and he'd pause for a couple seconds, then go like and move into a different pose.
So
kind of thing.
like straight robot Vogue
He was
style.
moving for 40 minutes straight. That guy was going everywhere. And I'm like, I don't even know most of these songs, but I can appreciate you for who you are as an artist, kind of thing.
Exactly.
But the big part for me was that middle group when Angels and Airwaves came on stage, and it was absolutely unreal for me. It was one of those things where and this is going to sound so overly dramatic, but I couldn't actually believe I was there in that moment. I'm like, this band their songs I can't even begin to explain it.
I feel like I'm watching you malfunction.
Every single song they played was incredible. Loved all of them. They had a whole light show going on because they're very atmospheric, and their light show added to that.
Yeah, that's a good word for them.
They played their new song Rebel Girl that came out. That was so big. And my favorite song of all time is Everything's Magic. And as soon as those synth and drums came on for those first couple notes and the first clap hit, all my friends turned to me and was like, "It's your song," and I'm like, "Hell yeah, it's my song." And it was just so damn good. And Tom, he was still chatting with the crowd and stuff. And at one point, I just remember him going. So he was actually telling a story. He's like, "Yeah, I've been at this venue quite a few times. Like once with Boxcar Racer, 4 or 5 times here with Angels and Airwaves, and countless times with Blink." And then at one point he goes, "Yeah, but I actually like being here. I like the city of Milwaukee." And then someone on the stage was like, "No, Tom, we aren't in Wisconsin. Milwaukee's in Minnesota." And he's like, "Milwaukee's in Minnesota? I thought I was in Wisconsin right now. I swear this is Wisconsin." And we're all trying to say, "Yeah, no, Tom, you were right. Don't listen to him. You're in Wisconsin right now." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Well, in Minnesota, like wherever I am right now, I'm enjoying it."
Thought we were in Wisconsin.
So the only and I bought a sweatshirt at the show, and I bought a double XL, and I was so careful washing it because it's the only sweatshirt I have that's big on me, and I love it for that reason. And it's nice and soft. That was my grand finale. The rest of this episode's Danny's. I have gushed, and now I feel like oh boy.
All right. Well, I figured I'd just wrap it up with a quick few honorable mentions that I've seen that I have loved. Paris, I think you would know with Paris too. They're just a really cool band to see.
I can imagine they're good live.
I love, I'm a sucker for St. Patrick.
St. Patrick, you love that.
I love that song. Like, when I pick a song, I stick with it, and that's just been one of the songs. Crown the Empire, I'll always pep them. That was, I think, one of the very first bands I've ever crowd surfed to at Warped Tour.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was right after the Resistance album came out, and I'm pretty sure it was either Satellite or Machines that was playing. And, I just remember jumping up to, get a better view, and this dude behind me was like, "You want to go up?" And I went, "What?" And he had me, around the waist and, threw me onto this group, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna drop me, I'm gonna break my neck." Nope, went all the way to the front. It was so much fun.
That's rad.
First time I ever saw Bring Me the Horizon was in 2013, and that was, they played their Sempiternal album. That show was just riotous. That was so fun to see. They had such a good presence, but you could tell the strain on Ollie's voice a lot of the time. So
I believe it.
It was really unfortunate. And then my friend had got me super close to the barricades so that I could be super close to when Black Veil Brides came on. Same year, 2013. They played what was it, Fallen Angels. And the whole crowd just started jumping, and I was having the time of my life, and I was like, "I'm coming back to Warped Tour every year," and I did.
And you did, yeah.
And I did, yeah. So that was super fun. And also my favorite concert, because I got to go real close for a press pass that I had when I worked for the UWM Post. It was Crown the Empire, Asking Alexandria, and Black Veil Brides. So,
oh boy, a triple threat here.
Triple threat. It was so cool because I got to be right next to the stage, and I just remember thinking these are people that I have enjoyed listening to since the very beginning of my freshman year of high school, and now I'm I could basically trip them if I
You were so
wanted
close.
to. So, like, it was super cool to kind of have that moment and be like, this is what concerts are for. Because you look up and you see, like, all these people just having a blast, and you turn around and you have this whole crowd just screaming and, like, singing, and everybody's having a great time. So that's kind of, like, the cool duality of concerts.
And you got to interview the guitarist of
Yeah, Ben
Alexandria,
Bruce. I got
right?
to talk to him, and I was so nervous. I mean, he was, like, super laid back and super cool, and we ended up talking about, like, music videos and having Dani back in the band, because that was right when he rejoined.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a really, really cool opportunity to kind of have that, and then go see them play live.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's cool. And that's something that I know a lot of people, maybe you shouldn't even say a lot, but there are a fair amount of people who probably think they wouldn't enjoy a concert because they don't like crowds. They don't like your ears do ring after a concert because it's loud music.
always
usually.
bring earbuds.
Earplugs are they're going to help your hearing in the long run. But ultimately, what the concert is it's there to bring a community together. Like all of you are there. You might not have a single thing in common with any of the people there, but you do have that band. That can be the one thing that you can talk to anybody in that crowd about. Even if their thing is, I don't really know this band, but my friend here brought me. Boom, talk about that. You go to your friend with concerts, you go to your concerts with your friend a lot. There's always a reason to feel like you belong when you are at a live show. I would say go to a concert because you are going to, in some way, shape, or form, have a story come out of it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's going to wrap up this episode. A topic that I want to at least hint at here that I was very much avoiding bringing up here is just live albums. But for now, this is the end of this episode of Listen to This. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I've been Alex.
And I'm Dani, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.